it is time for another physics problem. I made this one up, and it might be a little bit tricky, but let's do it anyway. So here I have a ball. It has a mass of 25 grams, and it bounces off a vertical wall like that. So it comes in at some, oh, I didn't give the angle, theta. Theta is what? Let's pick theta. So that angle, theta, is going to be equal to, I'm just picking here, 25 degrees. Okay, got it. So it bounces off the wall at an angle theta, and then it goes off at the same angle theta, but a little bit slower. And we want to calculate the impact force, the force a wall exerts on the ball, or the ball exerts on the wall. That is the same thing. Now, one of the things that I gave here was the compression distance of the ball. So when the ball hits that wall, it goes like this, and it kind of compresses and then bounces off. Okay, so we have a lot of work to do here. Now, the first thing, I've already drawn a picture, I've already put down what I'm looking for. Not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is the impact force. So let's write that right here. The vector impact force. Let's call it F. The next thing that we need to think about is what kind of problem it's, what concept are we going to use here? Could we use work energy to calculate this problem? Well, the work energy principle does not give us the vector force. Okay, so that's a problem right there. Work energy is a scalar problem. So when we're looking for a vector force, it's still possible to get that in some situations, but here it's going to be kind of difficult because it won't take into the angle of impact for these things because we're not dealing with vectors. Work energy doesn't do that. Well, that only leaves us with one other option, the Newton's second law, or the momentum principle, which is the same thing. So just as a quick review, we have this. The net force on an object is equal to the mass times acceleration. But we can define momentum as mass times velocity. And if the acceleration is the change in velocity with respect to time, this becomes F net is mass times the change in velocity with respect to time. And if the mass is constant, I can bring that into the change, and I get delta mv delta t, or delta p delta t. So the net force on an object is the change in momentum with respect to time, is the same thing as Newton's second law for almost all practical purposes. Not quite the same thing. This one's actually a little bit better, but there you have it. Okay, so let's use the momentum principle, because we can see here that the ball is going to come in and it's going to change momentum. And so we can get an expression for the change in momentum already. Let's go ahead and write these momentum vectors. Okay. So there is a gravitational force, but we'll assume it's very small. So I'm going to assume that the only force on the ball is the force from the wall. So I can write P1 as this vector right here. So let's call this the x-axis and that the y-axis. So I need to find, I know the value of the velocity magnitude and I know the mass, but I need to find the component of that. So here we have a right triangle. So there's my x component of momentum, and there's my y component of momentum. So my hypotenuse of that is going to be equal to the velocity, or mass and velocity doesn't really matter. So the x component is going to be cosine theta. And then in this case, it's in the positive x direction. So I'm going to write P1 as mv1, right? Because it's the magnitude of the initial velocity. It's 5 meters per second. And then I'm going to multiply by the vector cosine theta in the x direction. And in the y direction, it's going to be sine theta. And again, it's going to be positive. It's moving in the positive direction. So there's my initial momentum. My final momentum, P2, is going to be mv2. Again, it's moving a little bit slower. Now, I have the same angle, though. So here is my x component. It's, again, cosine. However, now it's moving this way in the negative x direction. So this is going to be negative cosine theta. And then the y component is still in the positive y direction, so it's going to be sine theta. So I can get, I'm halfway there already. I can get delta p. Let's go ahead and get delta p vector. It's going to be P2 minus P1. So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to multiply it out. This is going to be equal to, the x component is going to be negative m2 v2 cosine theta, right? That's this times this. And then I'm going to have to subtract the x component up here, which is minus, it's just m, I'm sorry, v2, minus m v1 cosine theta. And now in the y direction, I have m v2 sine theta minus m v1 sine theta, and then there's no z component. It looks messy, but it shouldn't be too bad, right? We have numbers for all these things. I can write them out as a number. So that's no big deal. Number, number, number. I have all those values. I found the change in momentum. Now for the tricky part. If I want to find the net force, it's the change in momentum with respect to time. I got that. I got to get this. So let's suppose that I have this ball. And it starts right here, just about contacting the wall. I'll draw a big ball. And then it's going to compress. I'll draw it again, like that. And then it's going to uncompress. And so this distance from here to there is s. It compressed a distance s. And then it decompressed that distance s. So how can we calculate that? Well, I mean, it's going in, stopping, and coming back in the x direction. There's a lot of ways to estimate this. Let's just look at the x direction. And let's say that it travels a distance s in half the time interval. And it's going to stop, right? So if I look at the x velocity, v average x, I'm going from here to stopping. It's going to be 0 minus the initial velocity, which is going to be it's just v1 cosine theta. That's my x velocity. That's my average x velocity divided by 2. Yep, average velocity. No, this, yeah. No, this is b plus. Yeah, average. Now I can write that as delta x over delta t, and then I can solve for delta t. But really, this is half the time interval. So I'm going to write this as half delta t, right? Because I'm only going halfway. I want that delta t right there. So now I know delta x. I can set all this up as one equation. I'll put over here delta x. 2 delta x over delta t is going to be equal to v1 cosine theta over 2. I want to solve for delta t. So delta t is going to be equal to 2 delta x, and I have another 2, so it's 4, over v1 cosine theta. So that's my delta t. I have my delta p. I can put it all together. So let's put this in as delta p over this 4 delta x, which I'm calling s, times v1 cosine theta. And that's my answer. Okay, so now we have a bunch of stuff to put together. So let's just go ahead and do this in Python to do our calculation, because Python's pretty good with vectors. So let's put in all of our stuff in Python. Just use it as our calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and, no, do I have one open? No. Let's open a new tab. Trinket. Trinket will go away, yes, I know, but I'm using it until it does. New Trinket. Web vPython. And I'm going to make this. Okay. So let's put in everything I know. The mass, 0.025, 25 grams. V1 was 5. V2 was 4.5. Theta, I said 25, yeah. 25 times pi divided by 180. And then S is 1 centimeter. S is 0.01. Okay, let's write an expression for the initial and the final momentum. So P1 is going to be equal to m times V1 times vector. See, we got that vector thing. Cosine theta, sine theta, 0. It's just a number, and I don't even care what it is. P2 is m times V2 times vector, cosine, negative cosine theta. sine theta, 0, just like we said before. Now I can write dp as p2 minus p1. I'm going to go ahead and print that because you may want to check your answer. Print dp equals dp. And it's going to have units of kilogram meters per second. So let's just run that and see, just so in case you want to check. So there's my change in momentum. Okay. And it does make sense that it has a change in momentum in the negative x direction and negative y direction because it was moving up, but now it's moving up at a little bit slower speed, so it did have to decrease in that direction. Now let's solve for our dt. So dt is going to be equal to, I'm just going to write it out here, 4, you can't even see that, 4 times s divided by v1 times cosine theta. And let's print dt because you might want that. And I'm going to run that. Oh, it's a very short time interval, 0.0088. Now I can calculate fnet. I'll just call it fwall. It's going to be equal to dp divided by dt. You see how nice that makes it when we use Python? We have all these numbers, but we calculate them as separate variables, and then we can just put it in a very simple thing like that. And I'm going to print it, and that will be the answer. Fwall equals Fwall in newtons. And I'm going to run it. And there you go. So it pushes mostly in the x direction and a little in the downward, in the negative x direction, and a little in the negative y direction because it does slow down. So this would actually be the frictional force, right? So there is a frictional force when this ball hits the wall, and that would be like the normal force. But there you go. Change in momentum using the momentum principle. End of problem. Talk to you later. Bye.